All right, how's it going? Today I'm going to welcome with me another guest, Marc Oberdorfer. Marc, how are you doing?
Hello, Steve. Nice to meet you, and thank me for having on your show. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Now, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, not
You're
okay. Well, good.
among the 1% who can actually say my name.
Okay, well, there you go. They're not too bad. So we got off to a good start then.
Living in Asia, I get all kinds of variations on my name.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I think that maybe they will just call you Mr. Marc.
I've been often called Mars, as in the planet. So,
named after a famous stuntman that we know, right?
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that would be an honor, obviously. So,
exactly right. Well, look, Marc, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for your time. You've just given me a clue there, or given us a clue there about where you're from, at least at the moment. You're in Hong Kong, is that correct?
that's correct. I've been based in Hong Kong for the past 20 years, and I've been coming to
Blimey.
Hong Kong in the late 90s, and then eventually decided to move here because certain things for business and my work made more sense from Hong Kong. And I always had a huge love for Hong Kong and Hong Kong movies and the culture. So it was just a natural move here.
Okay, well, the worst thing about that is you got me out of bed, but no problem. I'm going to start exactly there then, because I guessed, because I saw you in the first time I was aware of you was Hong Kong Style Forever 1985, the short film, which I absolutely loved. And we can get into that at some point. But that made me think that if you were involved in something like that, that you would be into Hong Kong movies. You've just told me you are into that. So let's start there. You're into the Hong Kong films, Kung Fu films. That's correct, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. And I'm not going to bore you with the long story how I got there. I mean,
I
my
want the
career,
long story though.
because we could be talking for a week, I think.
Well,
I'll be boring
listen.
a bit, but long story short, um, I've gotten into filmmaking, or more precisely, I started with acting at the age of 14 when we had summer school programs. So I gotten a part of a co-lead in a drama, a teeny drama. That was like a 40-minute film. And on the same film, they gave me the opportunity to learn behind the scenes how you operate a so-called genlock. At the time, you had like a tape-based workflow where you have the tape feeding the genlock, and then the genlock what would be used to generate titles like the end credits, etc. So on the same project, I also started to learn how to use a camera and other tools for filmmaking. That's how I got started some 34 years ago. And ever since, it's been a hobby of mine to make films, make short films in the beginning with my friends. And I've not ended up in filmmaking professionally until around 2006, 2007. I've always been involved in media somehow, mostly with photography in the beginning because of my previous business. And one thing led to another, where I thought, hey, why don't I try and make some films again? And like now I have a new backdrop being Hong Kong and different friend circle and some professionals from the film industry here as well. So one thing led to another and we started making films. And I want to say I'm not like a full-time filmmaker, because the Hong Kong film industry is small and it's a luxury to say I'm only making films. So I'm quite versatile in making things like corporate movies or commercials. I'm filming events and then movies as well in different capacities. And that's what I've been doing full time for the past, I don't know, 16, 17 years.
Well,
Yes.
listen, I appreciate that. But you are,
yes.
you've left out a big chunk. and it's not accepted unless you truly don't want to talk about it. I've got to know why. So, for example, when you was 14 and you got into the acting there, why and where was you at that point? Which country were you in at that point?
Right. So I'm from Germany originally, from South Germany, a small town called Ulm. We have the tallest church in the world, the Ulm Minster. And funnily enough, at the time we had a choice to either join a project where they would make something like a short TV show with like 2 or 3 episodes, but shorter ones, maybe 10, 15 minutes each, or that drama, which I've chosen in the end, because my best buddy was playing the other lead role. The other TV show was like an action thing. Actually, in hindsight now, I think I should have gone with that one because it had like action and things going on. And they went up to the Ulmer Münster, the tallest church in the world, and they had like a full-size doll that they threw down the Minster and filmed it as if they were fighting and kicking someone down. So I think I really missed my entry into the martial arts kind of action world there a little bit, because I also had a background in martial arts, beginning with Taekwondo and then dabbling in some Kung Fu styles, but there wasn't much to choose from in my hometown. It's a small town and you don't have much that you can do there, like in the 80s, you know. In hindsight, that might have been the more interesting one. But I mean, I was just happy to do something and to try acting because I always loved acting, and it's something I've been doing as a hobby here and there. And just as of about 1 or 1.5 years ago, I started to get some more offers for acting in a professional manner. So I've been picking that up again a little bit. Okay. But you have to kind of, you know, and choose what you want to do, because there's so many things to do on my project that I'm directing right now, so I can't do too many things on the side. So you kind of have to cherry pick.
Yeah, very, very time consuming. Now you listen, now I know you're from Germany. I now understand why you love Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, because they are Italians, but of course their biggest market is Germany. So now I totally understand that. And listen, there's no way you're getting away with not talking to me a little bit about those guys, because I love Bud Spencer and Terence Hill so much. They are a big, big part of my childhood growing up. Yes, I talk Kung Fu on here, but I love that stuff as well. And I'll happily talk about that. So you love Bud Spencer and Terence Hill as well, because, you know, I know this. So tell me a little bit about growing up watching those guys.
I mean, I want to say that at least any boy growing up in, I want to say, Europe during that time has been in touch with Bud Spencer and Terence Hill movies at some point.
Right.
And I know girls from back in the day also who quite often watch these movies, so it's not really only a boy thing, but I think the boys probably tend to like it more, like the fighting and there's like these I don't know, these boy things going on, right, with the Western movies mostly. And the girls would rather be in different things, but I quite like these things. I mean, these movies, I grew up with them, and this was such a big deal to us back in the day that I can't imagine growing up without it. I mean, and nowadays you don't have any movies like this anymore.
Nothing.
It's quite unique. The combination of like some comedy and the way they have like almost like a slapstick fight, if you want to call it. It's quite unique and something that's being lost almost. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about a similar movie, but that's another story. It's in the future.
This is the thing. But these are the things that have inspired you, and they will obviously going to bleed over into your filmmaking, because there's no doubt if I made films, it would be inspired by, you know, Jackie Chan and Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. And I love those films so much. They're part of, like, say, part of the childhood. They're ingrained in me. They make you part of who you are, and they were such nice films. I thought, you know, they're brilliant films to show any child growing up. I don't think that they're violent. I think they're fun. They made me happy. They do now. If ever I'm down, I can just put on one of those and they will do the trick. That will fix all problems, even if only temporarily. Put on a Bud Spencer Terence Hill and we're all good again. So yeah.
Totally. And I also love Western movies. So that kind of goes hand with the spaghetti westerns back in the day.
Same. Yeah.
And the way they filmed everything and portrayed the characters, you know, the protagonists, antagonists, I think was quite nicely done. And probably set quite the stage for American films later on as well. I think a lot of filmmakers have been inspired by these movies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly right. I mean, I love spaghetti westerns as well. I guess that probably started from They Call Me Trinity, you know, Bud Spencer, Terence Hill. But as you know, with with all of these films, you always look outside. So you say, oh, you know, Bud Spencer and Terence Hill are brilliant. And then you'll see another film, say, Even Angels Eat Beans with Giuliano Gemma, and you'll go, hang on, he was brilliant. So then you start to look at his films, and then you'll see Franco Nero, and then you move from you know, it just grows from there, right?
Yes. So now I need to ask you a question. Growing up watching these movies, were they dubbed in English in the UK, or what did you get?
Dubbed in English, yeah, absolutely dubbed in English. And although Bud Spencer films were available in the video shops, there wasn't loads. There was just some. It wasn't like like yours is on TV. We did have Sheriff and the Satellite Kid. I do remember being on television. I remember that one being on TV, but they wasn't aired on TV like I believe they are in Germany, just from what I hear, of course. And there wasn't that many available. It was a little bit like the Kung Fu films. You had to seek them out. And to be fair, it was the same as Kung Fu films. In school, nobody else was watching this stuff. It's easier to find people now with the internet and social media. It's easy to find people now that watched it. But in school, there was nobody else that knew anything about these films unless I told them about them, which obviously I was doing all the time. So you're right in Europe, but in the UK, it wasn't that prevalent. You know, it wasn't. You know, you had to seek it out. But once you found it,
Right.
It only takes one film of theirs, and that's it. Then I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. We would get quite a lot of reruns of those movies on TV. And for us, I mean, as a teenager, you would not be able to just walk into a video rental store because you have to be at least 18 years old. We've tried a couple times, but they need you to see your ID card to make a membership. So yeah, we tried to go with older friends who were already 18 when we were 18, and sometimes they would let us in. Sometimes they would ask us for the ID and then kick us out.
Yeah, but this is so just to go into the video store. Never mind renting the films, you wasn't allowed in there.
Yes, correct.
Oh, blimey.
Correct. There's a very reason for that, which is that back in the day, I don't know how it is now. I mean, I think there are actually 1 or 2 video rental stores left in my hometown, if I'm not mistaken. But back in the day, they would have like adult movies in the same kind of room, so they would not allow underage people or underage children to go into a video rental store for that reason.
Yeah, okay. Well, that does actually make sense, and it's very different to the UK. And going on holiday sometimes to other places in Europe when I was younger, I did notice the difference. But yeah, in the UK, if you wanted those films, they were under the counter was the term.
I see. Okay.
Not on display. Yeah. Under the counter, where my dad always went. He took us in to get films, and he always ended up under the counter, like asking the bloke, "What you got under the counter?" Yeah, I ended up understanding what he was getting, but you know, at first I thought, why there's all these films out there on the shelves? Why has he asked the bloke for the ones under the counter? But like I say, I figured it out in the end. Yeah, understandable. But listen, okay. Well, look, I'm not going off Bud and Terence yet. Have you got a favourite Bud or Terence film? Or one that springs to mind, or one that brings up memories for you?
And now I have another problem because in Germany they famously most of the time changed the title to a German title.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Favorite from the top of my head is Die rechte und linke Hand des Teufels, which is the one where the brothers and they're trying to help the, what are they, Amish people or whatever, who are building houses and church and all that, right, in the valley, and the gangsters keep coming in, eating people up. I'm not sure what the English title, Italian for that matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think it was something like the Two Missionaries, I believe.
That could be, and there should be two parts as well.
Right.
And Bud's always upset when he sees his brother because he's always messing things up for him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Brilliant. And of course, the Dune buggy, red with a yellow top.
Yes.
From Watch Out, We're Mad. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen that one in the Bud Spencer Museum in Berlin a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've had it there. It's pretty good.
No, not yet. But yeah, it's not too far away. I've been to Berlin before, so I definitely need to make a trip there just to go to that museum. I'm sure I'll do other stuff, but that is why I would go to Berlin now, simply for that museum. So yeah, brilliant. Is it good? Good there?
They have some very interesting exhibits. And I think a lot of people are not aware that Bud Spencer used to be a professional swimmer.
That's right, yeah.
You can basically see all his medals, his achievements, photos, etc. in this exhibition as well. So you get quite a bit of different Bud Spencer as well.
Brilliant. That's right. Yeah, championship swimmer, and he had a good bod and everything, didn't he? He had muscles and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Still. Anyway, brilliant. So now you've also dodged the Hong Kong movies, the kung fu films. You mentioned just briefly there that you're into that stuff. You know, how did you get into that stuff? Give me some background on maybe the film that got you into it, or the film that sort of broke through for you. Yeah, that's
okay. I can't really recall a specific film that I've seen, but I do remember that on TV, same as with the Bud Spencer and Terence Hill movies, they would show quite a few Hong Kong martial arts movies. They would show some of the 70s movies, like the older style, slower choreography with longer takes. You know, all the typical movies that you would watch. And then coming up to the late 70s and then early 80s with Jackie Chan, Drunken Master, and all these movies. But of course, Bruce Lee movies, and that's what got me started. I think same for a lot of people.
Sure.
Old 70s Hong Kong martial arts movies plus the Bruce Lee movies really got me hooked. And when I saw it for the first time, I tried to copy the moves, obviously, and start kicking and doing all that stuff. I think I must have been around 8 years old. And when I was 14, I heard from my friend that in the next village over, a master opened a school, a taekwondo school. And several of my friends were allowed to go, but my mom wouldn't allow me to go because she was scared I would get hurt, right? Yeah. And I had to probably about what felt like ages. I think it was about a month of begging and saying, hey, all my friends get to go and even their mothers allow. And, you know, their mothers are much more strict than you. You don't want to look bad in front of those mothers, right? So I tried every trick. Eventually they let me go. And that's how I got started doing martial arts on my own, obviously getting more into the movies at that point as well. And then by that time you had like all the great action movies out of Hong Kong coming out, like Police Story, etc.
Yes.
And I just couldn't help but fall in love with these movies. I mean, I always loved all the kicks, like the tricks and the high kicking and combinations. I always felt it was amazing what humans could do, right? The acrobatics. And I never was really big on acrobatics myself, even though later on when I got into capoeira myself, I could do something when I was really active on a regular basis, but nothing like what you see in Only the Strong movie with Mark Dacascos, for example. And if you've seen that movie, the capoeira group that he made the movie with, and the master Armin Santos, especially back in the day, he did like kicks and flying through the air like he defies gravity. You know, it's like amazing. Those kinds of things always fascinated me.
Right. And is that the film that made you learn capoeira? Because we've gone from there not being much in your small town martial arts to learning some capoeira, a Brazilian martial art. You know, how did that come about?
Right. So the capoeira thing was all of a sudden there. I think, did it come out in 1993? I'm not sure on the exact year. Should be 93 or 94.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Right.
And I think 93. And at the time I was full on taekwondo 3 times a week during the week, plus Saturdays fight training because I would go to competitions. And taekwondo was everything for me at that point. I didn't even consider kung fu anymore at all because it was in another city and it would have cost more money and I wouldn't have been allowed to do 2 things at a time. But when that film came out, and I was already familiar with Marc Dacascos a little bit at that point, but that movie really put him on a different level, I think. And in terms of martial arts movies, I mean, some people don't like the movie, and especially when you talk to other capoeiristas, and there's a lot of things which are, you know, it's not exactly accurate and not how we do things, some of those things necessarily, but for discussion, so I'm not going to get into that. But I loved the movie just purely for watching the beautiful kicks and everything in the game, because in capoeira you play a game in the horda. The horda is the circle that the people form and 2 players are inside. They play a game of capoeira, and I found that was beautiful. So I was starting to try and find out how can you learn capoeira, where can you learn capoeira, but at the time there's like no internet to speak of. There's nothing. So I was trying to go to libraries, go to bookstores and try and find out, is there something I could learn somehow? But there were no books. At least if there was something in English language, maybe somewhere else, in a different country, maybe, but nothing existed, at least in libraries and bookstores in Germany. And one day, out of the blue, I saw an advertisement in the newspaper which said, capoeira master in my hometown, doing training once a week in location such and such, and a phone number. And I thought, oh my God, I have to call that number. I have to try and find these people, right? So I call the number, it rings, but nobody picks up. And I would call that number probably a dozen times that day, but nobody would pick up. And that kept going on day after day, and nobody ever picked up the phone. So now I think whoever that was, and there's capoeira in my hometown now, whoever that was back then might not have been there legally and kind of try and keep it on lowdown. Maybe he had been caught by I don't know who, and people said, hey, you can't do it, you're not here legally. I don't know what really happened, but I could never find this master or this person, this instructor. And it would take another about 12 years until I found my capoeira group and my master in Hong Kong. Also by chance. Because as of 2004 or before 2004 or 2005, there was no capoeira in all of China. So I'm with a capoeira group called Group Capoeira Brazil. We're one of the biggest groups. We're everywhere in the world. But at that time, we weren't in China yet. So my master from Australia came over, took the torch and brought capoeira to China, to Hong Kong specifically. And I can't recall how I found him, but I read it somewhere online at that time and thought, oh my God, that's it, right? So I have to do capoeira now. So one thing led to I met him, did a trial class, and never looked back really from that point on.
All right. So there you go. So you've always done some martial arts, but that was in Hong Kong. And I need to understand why you went to Hong Kong. How did you go from Germany to Hong Kong? Now, I know you said it was to do with work and it was a better location for you regarding work, but you still picked Hong Kong. And is that because of your love for that style of movie making? You know, why Hong Kong?
It wasn't for the movies at that time. I was running a import-export business at the time, selling video games, computer games, accessories, also camera-related gear and lenses, that kind of thing. Movies, by the way. I used to sell a lot of Hong Kong movies back when
Right.
there was LCD, VCD, and DVD, and even tapes. I started importing VHS tapes from Hong Kong when I was around 17 years old. And because a lot of the Hong Kong movies would not come to Germany, or they would be heavily cut versions, that really bothered Germany for a long time. They would censor and cut things quite heavily. So I started looking up and then found the originals in Hong Kong, and they were quite expensive actually. At the time, I think a VHS tape from the actual rental store, that means not a retail VHS tape, but one of the big box rental tapes, which are typically better quality, but they're also more expensive. They would run you about 100 Deutschmarks, which, I mean, you have to account for inflation, would be probably around 60, 70 euros now, maybe more.
Yeah, it's a lot.
They were not new tapes, they were secondhand from a video rental store.
Wow. Yeah.
I got started on importing those films, and I would have them in Cantonese now, but also with English subtitles, so I could start to learn Cantonese at that point in time. And I was importing a lot of products from Hong Kong specifically, but also China, and was running into so many issues with customs office, paying extra for the customs fees, tax, etc., plus the delay that occurs. This would be 1 to 2 weeks sometimes. And at some point I thought, this is just not a good way of doing business, and why do I need to give them a cut? Because I don't really want to get into it too much, but they're kind of greedy because they not only tax and fee you on the item value, but also on the shipping cost. So I thought that was quite ridiculous. At some point I thought, and see how this would work to do it from Hong Kong.
I can't blame you for that. Not much has changed in importing. I do it myself as well, and there's a lot of middlemen and a hell of a lot of greed involved, and that's just part and parcel, right? You get taxed on everything, and it's no different in that industry as well. Now, you mentioned video games, right?
Yes.
I mean, speak to me a little bit more about video games, because obviously I grew up playing video games as well. What type of video was you into? Video games? Was it just business, or was you into the games?
Video games, aside from martial arts and martial arts movies, until now, my biggest passion, those two things, I put them on the same level, really. When I was a kid, I kind of wanted to learn and study music because I was into music. I was playing different instruments, and I come from a musical family somewhat. And my dad said, I'm not going to put you through university. You're too lazy. If you want to do it, there's the door. Good luck, right? And I was kind of into it because my dad was quite strict. They grew up during the World War II, and they had even tougher parents to deal with. So I come from a strict background in terms of my dad raising me and my parents dealing with certain things in their own old-fashioned way, where you often don't get much of a choice. You have to do what they say, and you would not really be able to talk back to your parents. So I did not go to study music. And luckily enough, I had this summer filmmaking program, which I did for several years, and then started to borrow cameras from friends' parents. And then eventually we made our first feature film, which was just shy of an hour when I was around 18 or 19 years old. And I think I need to try and get back on track or to answer your question. I would always say that both the filmmaking and the video games was the biggest passion of mine, and still will be to the day I die. I can guarantee you that. And at some point, I had basically every console there is, even Japanese imports.
Yeah.
And I would try to play every game, and I think that's a part of why my business was successful, because I knew the games I was selling and the accessories I could actually recommend things to people, and if they don't know what they want to get, they can ask me. I can give them an idea what they might like, you know.
Yeah.
And needless to say, I was very big on Street Fighter 2, which I played first in the arcade, also
Yeah.
illegally speaking, because in Germany arcades are also not you're not able to go in there until you're 18 years old, and the
Yeah.
reason being that they have gambling machines, slot machines in the arcades, not only video games. That's why they will not let minors in there. And the few times I was able to sneak in with an older friend, he would play Street Fighter 2 all the time. That was when Street Fighter 2 just came out. So I was playing this game early on, and I was so hooked on that game that I couldn't wait until it came out on Super Nintendo eventually. Still one of my favorite games, definitely.
Well, there is so much that we're mirroring here, right? Yeah, there is so much that is the same. We also weren't allowed in video game arcades because of the fruit machines, as you say. So we wasn't allowed, but we always tried, and sometimes we was just, never got thrown out. Sometimes we got thrown out, but we'd always try. But the reason was exactly the same. It was for Street Fighter 2. And yeah, amazing. Now, if you like Street Fighter 2 and you're into fighting games and video games, then my guess is, especially as you was there early days, that you loved SNK and Neo Geo as well, because
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean,
don't get me started.
well, no, I'm going to, because you can't get away with it, right? But with the Street Fighter and stuff, I was exactly the same as you. I couldn't wait for it to come out on SNES, or probably for me and you, I don't know what it was like for you, but the SNES version of Street Fighter 2 here in the UK, it's the RF cable. It's 50 hertz, so it was 10% slower, if you like, roughly. And I ended up buying the Super Famicom Japanese version and the import version of Street Fighter 2, and then shortly after Hyper Fighting as well. I learned very quickly about Japanese import machines and how crap our machines were in comparison. So for many, many years, it was always Japanese imports, and the UK stuff was just rubbish in comparison. But then, not very, very close straight after it, really, because I saw Fatal Fury 1 in an arcade at a fun fair, so we was allowed to play that one. At Street Fighter 2 and Fatal Fury, the original. And once I saw that Fatal Fury, they were saying about those characters that I loved. And then shortly after, I learned that you could own that version if you wanted to, and that got me into Neo Geo. So you're into Neo Geo as well.
Back in the day, when Neo Geo came out, so for people who don't know, Neo Geo is the home consoleized version of the arcade MVS. And it was somewhat affordable compared to the arcade version. I guess if you need to buy full size candy cap arcade machine, that's kind of prohibitive for most people. But even the home console version, the Neo Geo, was so expensive I could not afford it at the time. I probably could have if I had not bought anything else for, I don't know, 2 years, maybe, I don't know. Even with a part-time job, I just couldn't afford it. So what we did back in the day, there were certain video game stores which would sell recorded games, Neo Geo games on VHS tape. So we would buy that, just watch the game played by someone else.
Brilliant. Oh, hey, people do it all the time now. Yeah, people do it all the time with YouTube. They're always watching people play video games. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah,
it's called VHS.
Amazing.
Close could get to a Neo Geo for a very long time, and I think I didn't have one until I was in my early 20s, when I was already working and on the job training, and I made some money, but it wasn't that far away anymore. It was achievable to buy one. You have your home port of Street Fighter 2, which is pretty good actually. But then Fatal Fury, And Art of Fighting specifically, the sound effects, the quality of the music, sound effects, especially on Neo Geo, is another level.
Yes,
up
exactly
from,
right.
And when I just watched the tape and listened to it, I thought, wow, this is so good. If this even plays remote with a Street Fighter, this is blowing away Street Fighter. But when I finally had one, I found that, yes, it looks great, it sounds amazing, but Street Fighter still had, I don't know, a little bit up on Fatal Fury in terms of gameplay, in my opinion.
100%. I totally agree that the Neo Geo SNK, they stood out because of the audio, the sound, the sonics. Like you said, the music was amazing, the sound effects were amazing, and obviously Art of Fighting, the other game you mentioned, that was incredible to look at. Massive sprites, it had the zoom in effect. You punched them in the face, and there was bruises and blood, and sunglasses flying off, and all sorts of things that attracted you to that game. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't normally compare Art Fighting to Street Fighter because I just think that even though they're beat 'em ups, they're just not the same style of game. One is like a hard karate game with different strategies, the spirit bar and stuff like that. And then Street Fighter 2, Fatal Fury I compare, and obviously there was no comparison gameplay. Street Fighter 2 smashed it, for ages. For me, it was only until Fatal Fury Special that SNK started to get a little bit closer, and I went, okay, this one plays similar, and then after that, I think they started to, I don't know, eclipse it a little bit, because I don't know, I ended up liking SNK more than Capcom.
Yeah. I totally agree. And then, if you ever had a PC Engine.
Yeah,
I had
with the Street Fighter on it as well.
Right. And I also bought the Super CD-ROM. And at some point I had the Turbo Engine, which had the PC Engine and the CD-ROM in one unit, called the Duo Engine in Japan. And they had a expansion card to give the machine more RAM. And you need to remember, the PC Engine is a 8-bit console as opposed to the Super Nintendo. And a lot of these arcade conversions, specifically Neo Geo games like Fatal Fury Special, were so much better on the PC Engine, at least the CD version, than Super Nintendo. All of a sudden, you have CD soundtrack, you have sound effects. Art of Fighting, I think, even had the zoom effect, if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Mega Drive didn't, Super Nintendo did, but then Super Nintendo had smaller sprites again.
Yeah.
And I was looking at, okay, which get, because Neo Geo is still out of my range, my price range, and eventually that expansion thing came for the PC Engine plus the CD versions of these Neo Geo games, and all of a sudden you have like Fatal Fury Special, and so on, which has even better music than the original, and that was mind blowing to me that they can do that on an 8-bit machine. I have pretty much, I think I have every single conversion on PC Engine of Neo Geo games that they ever released.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I would do that now, but at the time, all my resources, whatever they were, as little as they were, went into AES Neo Geo, so I couldn't buy the games on the SNES and the Mega Drive as well, and I wasn't interested because I only wanted the true, real version. So if a kid told me, I've got that Samurai Showdown game, I've got it on Super Nintendo, I went, you ain't. You've got it, but it ain't Samurai Showdown. It's not the game, right? So you don't have it. The real version is the real version. You don't have it. Obviously, we got done by Green Blood, but we don't need to get into these things. But it doesn't matter because I knew about Japanese consoles, so there's no problem. I fixed that problem pretty much straight away. Went, why has this got Green Blood? Okay, we've been done again with sensors, so we fixed that problem. But I really, really could not get anything else at the time, and it's only, I'd say, even now, that because I've exhausted the Neo Geo thing, it's actually even more expensive now than it used to be. It's even worse because it's become retro and vintage. So there is no Neo Geo now. It's what I've got, and that's it. There's no more collecting, really. So now I look at alternate versions on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, SNES, Mega Drive, because they have different artwork and stuff like that, So now I do, but back then I had no time for that. I only wanted real ones.
I have one version for you, Samurai Spirits, aka Samurai Showdown. I bought the Panasonic 3DO when it came out. I loved that console to bits. Amazing games actually on it. Unfortunately, it didn't do well commercially.
No.
But they got several arcade games, namely some Street Fighter versions and Samurai Spirits.
Yes.
And in my opinion, at least from what I could have seen, it's a one-to-one conversion. Obviously, it's CD-based, so loading times are longer.
Well,
but the same size of sprites, the sound, everything.
all right.
I still have it.
Well,
it's Samurai Showdown, by the way, probably Samurai Showdown 2, my favorite Neo Geo game ever.
I love that game.
Part 2.
Yeah, no, part 2 is amazing. Yeah, I love that game. Yeah, and your favorite character on Samurai? Favorite character to use?
Haomaru would be my favorite. Mostly pick that guy. And I loved Earthquake in part 2.
So did my brother.
Taking up the whole screen. And if you know how to play Earthquake, nobody can go up against that guy, basically. You keep spinning with your... I think he's using a scythe or something, right? If you do the spinning special move with the... then there's not much you can do about it.
It takes down so much energy, even if you're blocking, innit? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. My brother was big into using Earthquake. He'd like to do the crouch down and then the hard slash where free of it along the floor. Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, amazing game. I love that game as well. I love Neo Geo. Yeah, we won't go on about it because there'll be certain people that'll be watching this going, hang on a minute, what happened to the Kung Fu's instead of the video games? But I couldn't help it. We had to do some video game stuff because I realized how close we were with it.
It's all related, really, because I think if it wasn't for arts movies and the martial arts games, I may not be where I'm now. I may have different interests. So it definitely influenced me, both games and the movies.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's a very big correlation between fighting games and Kung Fu movies. It is often the case that people tend to like both things. Yeah. So I've experienced that a lot over the years, but yeah, amazing games. I obviously ended up getting even more so once I found out about Neo Geo, I'd then go, well, I want the real version of Street Fighter as well. I don't want SNES no more. Then arcade and PCBs started to become a thing. But like I said,
oh, same here.
Right. There you go. So, do
you have a candy cap?
Yes.
Or do you have one? Which one?
Yes. I have a Sega Blast City.
Okay. Good choice.
Yeah. It wasn't choice, really. It's just about what was available for a price that was affordable. And I got it before it, obviously with things like that don't get made anymore. And then when collectors start coming out, the prices have gone mad. When I got it, it was very, very reasonable. And it was much, much, much later. The first arcade cabinet I got was an MVS Neo Geo, the green one, Sports Point, if you know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. I used to own a Taito Egret 2.
Yes.
Which I've gotten relatively cheaply, and it was near mint condition. But as it goes in Hong Kong, I had to move every 3 years at some point in my life here.
Okay.
And every time, for a certain period of time, the next apartment would be a bit smaller than the previous one. And at some point, I could not by keeping it anymore because it's quite big and large, and it takes up too much. I don't have it anymore. I miss it dearly. I still have my PCBs though, so
yes.
I get me a super again, I think, or something like that.
Super gun, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you see, you kept the PCBs because you know that at some point when the timing is right, the cabinet will be back in. So you need stuff for the cabinet. So yeah, you right. You know. Oh, funny. Yeah, there's another good friend of mine who's the same. He doesn't understand it, but it's not something he can explain. But he's exactly the same. Has to buy stupid things like I don't know. They brought out a joystick, didn't they? For the Astro City Mini, and
Yeah.
there was a green buttons one, and then they brought out a pink buttons one, and he went, I can't afford it, but I need to get the pink button one, right? And so then he ordered one, and he got done on the duty, and he went, that's a rip-off. I'm not, because I think he ordered it from somewhere like France or Germany, and he said, I got
Mhm.
done on the duty, so I got that sent back. So then he went, but I still need it. So I bought another green buttons one, but then because it was a better price, but then he bought the pink buttons and then changed it himself. He said by the time he'd done it all, it was way more expensive than just buying the pink buttons one. And he was never satisfied because he knew that he changed it from green to pink. He knew. And he said, even though it's the same, he went, the buttons won't quite be the same color. And he said, and I thought I'll check the box. And I went, the box, it's only got a sticker on it saying pink button version. It's not
Yes.
actually a pink box. And he went, but it don't matter because my box don't have that sticker on it. So he's had to, he has to get it. But anyway, you will understand this problem. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have,
Oh,
I have joysticks, like arcade joysticks as well. I'm hoarding things.
I don't know. There's probably 5, 6 arcade joysticks right here. No. Yeah, that's not the
I've
only ones, but yeah, it's mad.
got right here, but I would have to move some boxes.
Yeah,
Actually, maybe not.
yeah, exactly. But it's yeah. Well, anyway, you understand. I understand. Other people will totally understand. But anyway, let's, let's get on to Hong. Listen, I still don't think I know. Oh no, I do know why you're in Hong Kong. You was in Hong Kong because you thought for business it would be better and stop all this crappy import duties and all the greed. So you moved to Hong Kong, and but you're into media, into making films. So then you started getting involved. Now you did mention there about subtitles and Cantonese, and obviously living in Hong Kong. So then you chose to learn the language, or to learning the language. Yeah, how did you find that? Difficult?
I started learning the language at the 18, which was the time when I bought my first VHS tapes from Hong Kong, and I used the Hong Kong movies plus a book that I bought to learn Cantonese. Because when you watch Hong Kong movies in the original language and read the subtitles, that's not what they say half the time.
That's
You can
right.
kind
You
of see
learn that
what's
later.
going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's probably a bit off. So I
Mm.
was always curious to find out what do they really say, and there's probably some things that I know now, obviously, that get lost in translation. There's a lot of local slang stuff that you just can't translate. That goes for every language really.
Yeah, of course.
That got me really started with learning Cantonese on my own. It was a bit difficult in the beginning, like speaking it out loud. It would sound funny to me, and I would laugh about myself because I thought I sounded silly. And once I
Yeah.
put that hurdle, kept talking out loud, that really helped. And I watched a lot of movies and started learning it that way.
Yeah, and because you were younger, it's easier, I think, to learn stuff back then, at least stuff like that. And would you say that now you're fluent?
I'm fluent in conversational Cantonese. I can talk about some work stuff as well, especially if it's movie related. That's easier than other stuff. I mean, there's some certain things, if you talk about politics or very specific things, I might have a harder time. But I
Yeah.
usually, even in case, understand from the context what they're talking about. But then I might have to ask some more questions and ask them maybe to explain in more detail or help with some English here and there.
Yeah,
But
totally
in London,
understandable.
I feel comfortable talking Cantonese as an everyday language along with English. Those are
Brilliant.
my
Yeah.
two spoken
Well,
for
you
the
see,
last.
And neither of those languages are your native tongue, right?
No, it's funny, but I feel more comfortable in English, especially because I don't know. I think I even dream in English sometimes when I wake up. Like, did I just dream in English? And I speak and work and talk to everyone in English really most of the time, including my daughter. I mean, my daughter was born in Hong Kong and she speaks fluent Cantonese. She goes to a local school as well, and she's mixed, by the way. And she often tells me, "Hey, Daddy, please don't speak in Cantonese to me. Your Cantonese sucks." She doesn't use that word. Oh, good. Don't speak in Cantonese to me. She forbids me to speak Cantonese. Yeah, teenagers.
Well, yeah, but that will make her bilingual as well, right? Because if you speak English to her, then she'll just be able to speak English. Yeah, so this is a good thing.
Yes, her English is native level. I want to say.
Yeah.
And the way kids
Yeah.
up these days, with access to YouTube, etc., they watch English language content. I was lucky enough that when I was a kid, we had Sky Channel and MTV. So I learned English before I learned it in school, watching cartoons. So
Right.
early on, I knew when I watched Transformers, they would say Decepticons retreat, for example. I would know what that means because I see it on every episode, because it happens every episode, right? And simple things like that really helped. So I think children nowadays are exposed to English, if it's not their own native language, much more than we were back in the day, and have many more opportunities to learn other languages very easily with apps and all good and bad things.
Of course, yeah. Obviously, with all good things, bad things come as well. But I do think it kind of makes it harder though, because that stuff is there and you can access it. Then I think people tend not to do it because you can do it anytime type thing. With stuff like learning Cantonese or something like that, you have to want to do it. There has to be a reason to do it, and now it's just, I don't know. I think when you get older, your brain just, I don't know. I can't retain information anymore. Whatever I learned back then, if I learned some Cantonese back then, which I did, I remember that stuff. Not all of it, because I didn't practice, but I remember a lot of that stuff. But if I try and learn again and add new things, vocabulary and stuff to it, I just can't remember any of it. Of course, if I was surrounded by it, then that would be easier. But using an app or something like that, and you go, oh, and it says, oh, brilliant, you've added 10 words to your dictionary today. So, well, I don't remember them. As soon as I shut the app down, I don't remember even one of them. But old ones that I learned ages ago, I still remember them. Yeah.
It's fair enough. I'm exactly the same. I'm currently trying to relearn French and Mandarin as well. I learned Mandarin about 25 years ago when I was still living in Germany. And especially before COVID, I would frequently go to China for work. So even if you go to the Guangdong area, not so many many people speak Cantonese, because you have so many people coming from other parts of China who live and work there. So you would all find yourself in a situation where it would be really good to be able to speak Mandarin. And I'm using an app. I'm using Duolingo, and it's rough. I have a very hard time to memorize things nowadays, and I used to be able to do that very easily when I was younger, and now it seems to be a real struggle.
Yeah. It's too difficult to retain any of it. I just can't. I don't know. I can't remember any of it. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's too hard. So good for you. You've done it, and obviously you're immersed in it, and that's obviously going to help you as well. So now we know why you're in Hong Kong. We know you like the Hong Kong films, and that explains your involvement in stuff like because this is where I found out about you. This film here. Yeah, this was the first time I heard of you or was made aware of you, and I have to say, I love this a lot, and I don't know what it's called, because I thought it was called Hong Kong Style Forever 1985. But obviously, this has Bye Bye Rodney on it. So what is the title of this short film?
It is called Hong Kong Style Forever, and the subtitle here is Bye Bye Rodney, because Rodney on the right hand side of the picture here decided to leave Hong Kong after also many years. I met Rodney the first time in 2005 in Hong Kong, in capoeira actually. So we were both going to the same class. That's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that he's into the movies, doing like stunts, action kind of things. So we got to exchange a bit about that as well. But we wouldn't work together until I think many years later. And there was an actual conversation about why is nobody making Hong Kong movies anymore the way they used to in the 80s, 90s. And Andy Long on the left hand side of the picture had the idea to make this film and kind of do this film also as a farewell to Rodney because he's leaving Hong Kong. And him and Sefa, who is in the middle of the picture, were in Hong Kong for an extended period of time, and they had time on hands to make some short films and thought, hey, let's do this. And I was around. I said, if you need any help with filming or whatever, just let me know. I'll be around. I have some time. I'd be happy to help in any way I can. I was itching to do a fight scene, but there was just so much to do and very little time that we didn't have a chance to do that, but it's fine. I think the way the film ends now, people would anticipate that, oh, there's this last guy doing a fight maybe, but then I just shake his hand like, you're scared. No, I can't fight this guy. See you, guy. See you later.
I liked that though. It was very in keeping with the comedy aspects of the Hong Kong films. So even though I was expecting a fight, that's the whole point. It was exactly like an old Hong Kong film. Honestly, I loved it. It's I did say on the description that it was a true story, and so it is true. Then he was, Rodney leaving Hong Kong to go to Australia, was it?
Yes. So basically, the dialogue you heard in the beginning was more or less the conversation we had, about why you're leaving and all that, and talking about the Hong Kong industry is not the same anymore. They don't make as many action movies, and also different style of action movie nowadays. And I mean, if you want to know more background about why and what was the exact thinking about making these movies, I think you should talk to Andy Long. He can probably talk to you about that for a whole week, I guess.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
But I think we all have the same feeling about this, Me growing up with the Hong Kong movies since the 70s style, a bit different style of movies. Andy's generation, he's a bit younger. So he kind of really started with the Jackie Chan movies, which reflects in the way he makes movies and action directs. Everything he does is more like fast-paced Hong Kong action, which is a bit more exciting to look at. And I'm contemplating this to the day, every single day. Why aren't they making these movies anymore? And I spoke to a few people, and it's kind of always the same, or there's different answers to that and different reasons, obviously, and it's not as simple as I'm gonna say it now. But if they did the movies as they used to do, if you think of Police Story, for example, not only the martial arts being done in the movie, but the action, like going through a village, down a steep hill with a car, trashing everything. You couldn't do this kind of stuff anymore. First of all, there are no more villages on a very steep hill like this anymore because it's a hazard. Too many landslides and things like that, and fire hazards. But the government wouldn't let you do stuff like that anymore. Also, it would be much more expensive than back in the day. To give you an idea, when I came to Hong Kong and moved here 20 years ago, my rent was 25% the cost of what I'm paying now. Wow. And that transcends everything else. I mean, crew and actors would get paid much less than what they would get paid nowadays. So to do a movie like this the same way, it takes months and it would be too expensive. I mean, some people have the money to do that, but they just choose not to because they can probably make a different kind of movie that they think might do better for them at the box office and commercial channels. But also some people might think that a full-on 80s style martial arts film might not be attractive to a general audience. I mean, if you look at Hong Kong movies in the past 10, 15 years, they're trying to kind of copy Hollywood in many ways, including using visual effects, which was not that big a thing back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, 80s had no visual effects. And to distinguish, visual effects are being done in a computer as opposed to special effects, which are being done in camera.
Right.
Practical effects.
Yeah.
I think Hong Kong is trying to chase Hollywood a bit too much. And
So do I. Yeah.
From what I've heard recently, very, very big and very expensive movies, I'm not going to say any names, are not at all doing that well at the box office in Hong Kong. These big action, they're not, and they keep using the same cast. I mean, it's Tony Leung, Andy Lau. There's like a handful of people who keep reprising the same roles over and over and over again, to a point where even I can't watch it anymore because I've seen it 100 times. And I used to be a huge Andy Lau, going to his concerts and all of that, but I'm bored. I can't do it anymore.
Right.
Even to a degree where I think it's even worse than Hollywood, maybe, almost. Not really. Hollywood does the same thing with the superhero movies, I think.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they?
Tired, maybe. It's just too much, you know. They need to reinvent themselves and then change a bit. And I think they're trying to do that with Twilight of the Warriors. Doing a pretty
that was good.
Trying to bring the Hong Kong movie back, but being modern at the same time. And Stuntman is coming out in the cinema here now, which is another movie that pays homage to the Hong Kong stunt and action people. I think it's going to be an important film for the Hong Kong film industry.
No, for sure. I appreciate that sort of detailed analysis of some of the issues there that they're facing making Hong Kong films. But I agree, they've also lost their identity. They had their own identity back then, and that's what made them stand out. Maybe it wasn't commercially viable across the whole world. Jackie Chan disproved that, really, when he stuck to his guns. He tried to make Hollywood films that never worked, but eventually he sort of made things like Rumble in the Bronx that were part Cantonese, part English speaking, in a Western setting, but was still at its core a Jackie Chan film, so he kind of got it. But the truth is certainly throughout Europe, people loved this guy's films anyway. He was kind of a universal language anyway, however, not mainstream. So his films weren't at the cinema. I mean, they was later, but, and there were screenings of his films here, but they weren't normal commercial films. So I understand why, but they really had an identity back then. They really stood out. They had their own industry. And now I can't stand that they follow this Hollywood trend. You said you weren't going to name any names, but there was one film. So Louis Koo, right? I mean, it was Warriors of the Future, and Sean Lau as well. And I just thought, this has got brilliant actors in, and you're all in robot suits with CGI. And I just looked at this and went, but you've made so many brilliant films, especially the Johnny Toe stuff or whatever. You made so many great films, guys. You know how to make good films or be in good films or whatever. You're all brilliant actors. And this, I don't know. I just thought you're wasted here. This vehicle is wasting you guys. That was my opinion when I saw films like that. And I just thought, go back to, this is not a good film. Leave that to Hollywood. They ain't good films either. Like you said, this superhero stuff is just terrible now. So, yeah, just leave that and do your own thing. Do your own thing. That's what I think anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think what you just said is quite spot on. The key word here is like wasted talent. Every so often I give a Hong Kong movie a chance again, and then I'm like, disappointed and think, they probably spent about 20 million US dollars on this with a totally unoriginal script, but with the best actors or some of the best actors Hong Kong has to offer. But it's the same for me with Hollywood, They have such big budgets on a lot of movies, great actors, great directors, but sometimes the scripts are so bad and they kind of follow a certain formula. I mean, scripts always follow a formula, but I want to say they follow the same formula over and over. They're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to take a risk and make something original. To at least try and come up with some new stories and something different. They just keep doing the same thing, and it's totally wasted talent. I totally agree.
Yeah. The same thing over and over again is tiresome. Remakes of stuff. You know, if you want to watch Papillon, then Papillon is a brilliant film. You can watch the original. I don't know why they have to make these new films. There's what's the film? There's a German film, isn't there? Is it called The Guilty? I can't remember what it's called, but it's got they made a remake with Jake Gyllenhaal in it. It's way worse. I was like, yeah, but there's a German version of this film. It's already brilliant. Just watch that if you want to watch that film. Watch that film. I understand why they do it. I think the Lewis Koo film, Cell Phone or whatever, that one in the phone booth, that is a remake of a Hollywood film, I think, a Colin Farrell film. I just didn't know that. I just watched it because it was a Lewis Koo film, and I thought this is brilliant. So I get why they do it. It's the same with The Departed. You know, I understand why they do it. They see these brilliant films and go, there's lots of people that won't watch this film because it's subtitled and it's from, got Chinese people in it or whatever. I understand why they do it. But as someone who watches the originals, when you watch these remakes, you go, oh my God, this is actually crap, in comparison to what we like. But people now don't tend to have any faith in their own vision and making their own thing and just hoping that people like it as well. I think you need to create or make what you want to make and what you think is good and that comes from you and your soul and your energy. And if people like that as well and cotton onto it and it becomes successful, then that's brilliant. But if they don't, then at least you're happy with what you put out there. And there's a lot of people that don't do that. This is why I like people like Lau Garlung, because when he makes the films, he says, this is the Kung Fu martial arts first. I'm a descendant of Wong Fei Hung. This is my thing. It's about representing martial arts and Kung Fu first. If it makes money, brilliant. I wish it did. And some of them are successful, brilliant. But I have to be happy with what is on the screen first and representing myself well. And there's a lot of people that don't do that. And you'll tend to find that if you find people, don't matter where, Hollywood, wherever, the people that do that, that's when you get something special.
Right. I agree with that totally. Another problem is the current film industry in Hong Kong is often funded by mainland Chinese money. So you get these really big investors. Actually, if you look at Hollywood movies, you will often read that, for example, Tencent is in the mix. And companies like that, big corporates like that, they have a lot of money and they obviously dictate certain things in terms of the production and what you need to do. For example, on Hong Kong movies, they sometimes would dictate you have to somehow include a Chinese city or maybe a mainland actor in a Hong Kong movie because we are paying for it. And most of the time, these financiers are not creatives. They just maybe look at numbers or listen to maybe the wrong people to say, hey, we need to make this kind of movie. And it comes from the wrong place, often, I think. It just comes from the wrong place rather than, say, a passionate filmmaker has a story that they want to tell. And if that's the case and they get to do what they want to do, then they likely make a good movie.
Yeah, but then, like you say, if it's the film that they want to make, then getting somebody else to finance that and prove that it's going to be commercially viable and successful, that is why people make short films, I guess. I don't know. That seems to be quite a hot thing at the moment, and I will use that to lead on to the short film that you kindly sent me that I watched, Rancour, and this is a short film made by you. It's about 30 minutes, 31 minutes or so. And tell me about this film, why you made it. Just tell me about it.
Okay, so Rancour was basically a thesis film of one of my film students. I used to teach in a film school in Hong Kong part-time because I think, first of all, I love teaching. because when you teach, you learn yourself. You need to relearn certain things and make sure you're on top of your game, so you can teach, give them value. And Rancour was originally a thesis film of one of my students at the film school. And I quite liked the story, but I felt I need to be careful how I phrase this. I need to explain that mostly film students, at least the way it was done in Hong Kong in our school, they would not have a lot of resources. You were not allowed to hire professionals, etc. That's different countries. I was actually quite surprised to learn in Germany, for example, in most film schools, students are allowed to hire professionals for their thesis films, which in my opinion kind of defeats the purpose. They should be using other students to man the camera, to have sound, etc., rather than hire professionals, because, right, it makes no sense to me at all.
Opportunity for everybody to learn their craft.
Yes, and in that sense, my student didn't have a lot of resources. They also don't have a lot of time to make these thesis films. They're also restricted by how long the film can be. So you can do only so much. And I started thinking, how would I do that film if it was my idea, my story, up to a point where I was quite intrigued and started having different ideas, and I might do this character different and maybe the ending a bit different. And eventually I asked my student, hey, would you mind if I remake the film, but I'll make it a bit longer? And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, fine by me. And what was originally, I believe, a around 13-minute film became very quickly a 30-page script, which translates to roughly 30 minutes on film. And I kept writing and writing, and I realized actually that this is a feature-length story. I probably can't tell it properly in detail enough in a 30-minute film either. But then you have this problem of, how are you going to do a film which has action and a lot of makeup effects, special effects, stunts, a stunt glass and all this stuff, and so many locations, as a feature film on a micro budget or no budget? I mean, there was some money, some budget for it, but it's a micro budget.
Yeah.
And also, if you do it that way, that means you can't just shoot for, let's say, 2 months non-stop until it's done. You kind of have to work with people, both crew and cast, and see, are they available on a weekend or on a day off, and try and make it that way. So it takes a very long time.
Sure.
And we started making this film in late summer 2019, when there were the protests going on in Hong Kong, which also put us in some difficult positions sometimes, because we couldn't get people to where we needed them to be, or people were kind of afraid to come out, to go to certain areas in town because of what was going on.
Yeah.
Shortly after, COVID happened, and the rest is history. So this film took much longer than it should have taken. And we had to compromise quite a few times. I had to rewrite the ending quite a few times, because an actor had to leave Hong Kong because of COVID. Otherwise, he would have been locked out of Hong Kong and things like that. So a lot of complications and some compromises. And we had to just try our best and make do with what we have and with the resources we had. Most of the time, there was a very small crew of, let's say, even just my own for some very small scenes, but mostly around 4 to 5 people only. And I think we finished shooting eventually in May or June 2021, I believe, around that time. And then post-production took some time as well, because I was working. I had to do it in between work, because it was not a finance project. I paid it out of pocket. So all of these things are not optimal when you make a film. And I'm kind of out of making short films. I've made so many that I can't even remember how many. I've worked on enough feature films, and short films don't make money. They just cost money and a lot of time, and usually there's no payoff other than maybe you being able to tell a story. So occasionally I work with friends on a short film when they have like a cool, interesting project that I think, okay, that's something that interests me as well. or I have a short film project where I think I don't really, it's not really feature film material, but I still want to tell the story, and then I might make a short film still, but generally speaking, I'm not really making short films anymore. I want to focus on feature length content.
Okay, interesting. That's
My,
so now, yeah, but this, so yeah, that's a very interesting thing you bring up there, that you spend a lot of time and effort on these things, making these things. Everybody involved does, but you know, it has to be something you want to make, because otherwise there's no financial payoff, and that's
right.
quite interesting, because I noticed that it has a lot of views on YouTube, 13,000, I think now. So, in your opinion, I mean, that seemed good, you know, so successful, but I know that with YouTube, it's very, very difficult to turn that into any finance. I know that for sure. I know that myself. So yeah.
Right. I mean, different people define success in different ways. But I think I want to say the same thing. The film has done rather well on YouTube, but that was not because of the film itself. I mean, people seem to not really hate the film, but there's always people who will not like a film. That's normal. But I've done quite a bit of work on a daily basis leading up to the release of the film to get the word out, both on Instagram, Facebook, and other channels. And I tried my best to have a cast and crew to share as well and keep reposting things. And some other friends helped me to repost sometimes on Instagram, for example. And without that, I believe we might not have been so lucky to get that many views. And as you probably know, running your own YouTube channel, you can't just upload a video, give it a title, whatever, and call it a day. You have to do the keywords and make sure the title is proper, and you need to do some research and prep work. Choose the right thumbnail and what you put as a text on a thumbnail, if at all, to kind of have the algorithm pick up your film or your video and suggest it to other people to watch. That's the big deal.
Yeah.
To do it the
yeah.
right way, do some prep work. If you just post something online and hope for the best, it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah, everything takes so long and so very, very time consuming, that even when you think, I've done this, made this video now, and you know, it's done, for example, you go, right, it's done, I can upload it. Then you go, well, hang on a minute, I've got to do the title, I've got to do something in the description, I've got to do the tags, I've got to then make a thumbnail. And then if I really want to, after that, rather than move on to the next video or project that you want to do, you've then got to go, well, I need to post it on social media. I need to maybe cut some clips from it and post some little snippets of it and all that. And all that stuff does do good and it does work. But it's, if you're on your own, then what you know, there has been times when I have done that and gone, okay, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. But it's, honestly, the whole thing, it's nothing to do with money, because I know it's not going to make money. It's not that. It's just to do with your how much time you're going to consume on that one thing.
Yeah.
Not
being able to create would be unfathomable for me. I could not imagine not being able to create things anymore. It's the time when I can create stuff and do things and experiment with different media.
It's just about finding the time to do these things, because most people are stuck doing the daily 9 to 5 grind, where they've got to literally keep the wolves from the door, and you know, the red bills coming through. That's what it's for. That's priority. You know, obviously eating and paying those bills are the priority. That's become a very, very difficult thing to do. So people finding the time and energy to come outside of that and create and do the things that truly make them happy has definitely, I think, become more difficult. But I also see that people are much more aware of that now and the need to do it.
Yes. I mean, I agree.
There, yeah.
Especially during COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, which puts more strain financially on everyone. And it's the same for me. I had to make some changes, and I was often not really in a creative mood, because most of the time I just had to make sure and see what's the next step in terms of like earning some money. You know, you have to do something. You can't be sitting on your butt, not having any income, because Hong Kong is pretty small for this industry in general, like I said before, and I had no work from one day to the next, basically, and then I had to make some changes to deal with this problem.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you know, if I do too much of this and whatever, then something else falls off the wayside. You know, basically, you know, whatever. The bills rack up. But the truth is, the other stuff I don't want to do. You know, but whatever. You know, it can be tricky. So, but everyone needs to at least pursue their passion, do things that make them happy, and they need to at least try and at least do some of that, add some of that into their lifestyle, because it's important, I think. Yeah. Well, look, Marc, thanks very much for this. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I've learned a lot here with video games, Neo Geo specifically, Bud Spencer, Terence Hill, Kung Fu. I mean, unbelievable the amount of correlations between the two of us that we was not aware of. So this is brilliant. Thank you for your time. I've enjoyed the conversation, but I wouldn't be able to have this conversation if you didn't agree to do it. So I really, really appreciate you agreeing to do it and coming on and being so generous with your time. Good luck with everything that you're doing, not just Yip Man Legacy, but all the other stuff that you've got going on, Rancour, and everything else that you do, everything you're teaching, everything. Good luck with all of that. I very much look forward to watching Yip Man Legacy once it's done, but maybe before it's even done, we can reconvene and have more chats. But thank you very much, Marc. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steve, for inviting me to your show. I really appreciate that as well, to give me a platform to talk about my projects a little bit. It was very enjoyable, and we shall talk more about video games specifically, I think.
Well, thank you very much, Marc. I really, really do appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to see your new content as well on the channel. I'll be following that for sure. So everyone who loves Kung Fu, martial arts, that kind of stuff, definitely check out Ultimate Fight Clan on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks, Marc.
Of course, absolutely.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Listen, we'll leave it there. I'll try and catch up with you when you come to London, and we can chat more then as well. Yeah. For now, Marc, respects. Thanks very much. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay then. Yeah. See you later. Thank you.